Cinema Wellman. I'm your host, David, and today we're going to hop across the pond to visit jolly old England for our fourth City Spotlight episode that has previously seen us visit San Francisco, New York, and Paris. This also happens to be the 100th episode of Cinema Wellman, so cheers to us. We have some twist-off champagne here. Prosecco, I should say. And Dakota and Lucas are in London as we speak for a delayed honeymoon and F1 experience, so cheers to them as well. And a quick shout out, since this is a milestone episode, to the entire staff here at Cinema Wellman who makes this possible week after week. I certainly wouldn't be able to do this all by myself. So thanks to all those that have helped put these together and have lended their production expertise to the show. Dakota designed these City Spotlight shirts for us on the official merch. And we have 9 films today due to the exchange rate. Did I do that right? And as is the plan for all of our City Spotlight episodes, we are looking for films in which the city not only provides its setting, it functions as a character in the film. If you check out the Cinema Wellman blog, you'll see all of the London filming locations listed for each film. For the podcast, I'm just going to mention the shooting locations that I got to visit during my trip to London in 2007. I had help with that, piecing that together, and those thanks will be given during the closing credits today. No way would I have remembered any of where I had been during that trip. I don't even remember going home in a black car after a night out. I love that. That's my favorite London story, I think. We will begin our London calling list with London's most famous secret agent from 2012. We have Skyfall, rated PG-13, 143 minutes. IMDb says 7.8, directed by Sam Mendes. Locations that I visited, Trafalgar Square and Parliament Square, so very touristy. IMDb says James Bond's loyalty to M is tested when her past comes back to haunt her. When M16 comes, MI6 comes under attack, 007 must track down and destroy the threat, no matter how personal the cost. There have been 27 James Bond movies to date, and we're going to put Skyfall on this list to represent them all. Based in London, of course, but we think this is the most London of the Bond films. One of the best things about this series is how they have traveled all over the world over the years, especially to exotic locations. Skyfall stays at home for the most part, which is why it's here to represent all of the others. From James Bond to a rom-com? What is going on here lately? From 1999, Notting Hill. Rated PG-13, 124 minutes, a bit long. IMDb says 7.2, directed by Roger Michell. Locations visited by me, Piccadilly and the Savoy Hotel. So once again, a little touristy there. IMDb says a set of circumstances makes Anna Scott, a famous actress, fall in love with William Thacker, owner of a bookstore in Notting Hill. Just as Skyfall is here representing all things Bond, Notting Hill is here to represent all romantic comedies set in London, and there are quite a few. Bridget Jones's Diary, Love Actually, Four Weddings and a Funeral, Sliding Doors, they all fit that bill. I had not seen Notting Hill, and I was surprised at how much I didn't hate it. I love Julia Roberts. I love her laugh. I know she's often criticized, and I'm not sure why. I think she's delightful. I do not love all of her movies, and I actually hated a couple of them. Notting Hill was not among them. And the London here is quite sweet and quaint and a place in which you wouldn't mind living. Next, from 1964, we have A Hard Day's Night. Rated G, 87 minutes, IMDb 7.5, directed by Richard Lester. Locations visited by me, Mayfair, Winchester Road, the River Thames. IMDb, over 2 typical days in the life of the Beatles, the boys struggled to keep themselves in check while preparing for a live TV performance. This is black and white London. It's crisp and clean. and chock full of screaming teenage girls. Oh, and all that Beatle music. This is such a fun trip in a time machine back to what 60s London must have been like. Although I don't think that teenage girls were there and screaming all the time, unless the Beatles were present. I would hope. How could you live there? Next, from 1966, we have Blow Up, not rated. Rated 111 minutes. IMDb says 7.4. Directed by Michelangelo Antonioni. Locations visited by me, Chelsea, and Regent Street. IMDb. A fashion photographer unknowingly captures a death on film after following two lovers in a park. London has always been a cinematic city filled with mystery and suspense, and Blow Up is certainly filled with both. If that IMDb synopsis sounded familiar, you may be a fan of Brian De Palma's 1981 thriller Blow Out, starring a young John Travolta as a sound man who may have audio evidence of a murder. That would be actually an excellent double feature. If you've ever seen any of the Austin Powers movies, that's the hip, artsy London that's kind of shown in Blow Up. It's groovy, baby. Next up is a London horror triple feature, since London has hosted more horror movies than it has rom-coms over the years. We're going to begin with 1981's An American Werewolf in London, rated R, 97 minutes, IMDb 7.5, directed by John Landis. Locations visited by me, Piccadilly Circus and Trafalgar Square. Places I visit, those are two touristy things, and it's one of those things like Times Square. Of course, if you're going to visit New York City, you most likely you're going to visit Times Square, and a lot of films take advantage of that. People have been there; they're going to recognize this, and so on. IMDb says American college students David Kessler and Jack Goodman are on a walking tour of Britain are attacked by a werewolf that none of the locals will admit exists. I can't count how many times I've seen this, as it was a staple in my college years. At the time, it featured the best possible special effects in the business, with Rick Baker transforming David into the werewolf. We had never seen anything like that before. It was amazing. Griffin Dunne is exceptional as Jack, David's dead and quickly decomposing friend. David as the werewolf runs amok through two places I visited, as I mentioned, Piccadilly Circus and Trafalgar Square. When I was in London, I did not see a werewolf, but I actually did go to Lee Ho Fook's for a dish of beef chow mein. Thank you, as always, Warren Zevon. Our next London horror movie from 2002, 28 Days Later. Rated R, 113 minutes. IMDb says 7.5. Directed by Danny Boyle. Locations visited by me, Winchester Bridge Road, Trafalgar Square, Piccadilly Circus, Mayfair, and Soho. IMDb, 4 weeks after a mysterious, incurable virus spreads throughout the UK, a handful of survivors try to find sanctuary. Not only is this horror, it's horror deserted London. It's horror London, it's just totally deserted. Director Danny Boyle pulled off some shenanigans to shoot Oscar winner Cillian Murphy wandering through an absolutely empty London at the start of this film. The fast zombies show up soon after to crowd things up, but those opening shots are amazing to watch. They're really the highlight of the film. Next, our last horror film in the trilogy from 2004, Shaun of the Dead, rated R, 99 minutes, IMDb 7.9, directed by Edgar Wright. No locations visited by me, which I'll explain in a second. IMDb, the uneventful, aimless, very aimless lives of a London electronics salesman and his layabout roommate are disrupted by the zombie apocalypse. Let's all go to the Winchester. These shooting locations were all in South London, and I didn't venture to that part of the city, although I wish I hit the Winchester. More London zombies, the slow variety here, And this one is played for an awful lot of bloody laughs. Simon Pegg and Nick Frost team up, which is always a good time. Now we're going to finish up today with Gangster London, going back to 1980's The Long Good Friday, rated R, 114 minutes. IMDb says 7.6, directed by John Mackenzie. Places I visited during my trip to London: St. Catherine's Dock, Westminster, Heathrow Airport, Savoy Hotel, the Strand, Wapping, and the Tower Bridge. IMDb: an up-and-coming gangster is tested by the insurgence of an unknown, very powerful threat. Gangster London, Bob Hoskins, gangsters on meat hooks, a 35-year-old Helen Mirren, and a pre-development seedy Canary Wharf. This is gritty and it's nasty. Canary Wharf, when it was a rough place before being transformed into the banking center of Europe. Helen Mirren, on the other hand, was always a beautiful and classy woman. Always was, always will be. No transformations needed there. Our last film from 1998, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, rated R, 107 minutes. IMDb gives it 8.1, directed by Guy Ritchie. Again, not any shooting locations I got to visit. IMDb says Eddie persuades his three pals to pool money for a vital poker game against a powerful local mobster, Hatchet Harry. One of the actors, one of the bad guys in Lock, Stock, was also one of the bad guys in The Long Good Friday. So that's fantastic. This was not shot in any touristy parts of town, so it makes sense that I missed all of these locations. More London gangsters, but our protagonists here, including a young Jason Statham, are more on the fringes of those gangsters. I love the editing in this. I love the shot choices Ritchie makes. I love the music. I bought the soundtrack. And I love all the colorful characters involved in this botched heist movie. I know a lot of people hate this movie because they say they can't understand anything that's being said. My response to that is that's why you have the closed caption button. Well, that is a wrap from here at Cinema Wellman for our London Calling City Spotlight episode, and a wrap for our 100th overall episode. Again, special thanks to the staff for all of the 100 episodes, and another special cheers to my friend John for his help with this episode. He lived there for 3 years, and we visited London together, so he was able to tell me which of the shooting locations I had seen during my visit, so cheers for the assist. We hope you're with us again next week when our Director's Corner Wes Anderson Love Fest finally happens. Hope to see you for that. And until then, take care.